the Something Else Podcast.
Marley was dead. Dead as a doornail. There is no doubt about that. And this must be clearly understood, or the story I am about to relate will make no sense at all. That is the first part of the Christmas Carol. Not that you can see on the camera. By the way, I am actually using a camera on this podcast. So welcome to episode 4. This one is on Christmas Eve, the 24th of December, 2020. A year some people want to forget. A year that I think we all want to forget. Anyway, this one is all about nostalgia. So even though I've just read a little bit of a Christmas Carol, it just seems fitting. I've got my Christmas hat, my Christmas PJs. We are ready. Now, the reason why I want to do nostalgia is because I work with children, and one of my lessons was all about thinking of what we would like for Christmas. Now, the idea was not to talk about toys. We wanted to talk about things that we are thankful for, kind of like what America does with Thanksgiving. So, we was talking about what makes us happy, what we really want other people to have. And one child said, "Ben, what did you get for Christmas when you was little?" Straight away, my mind just whoomp. My mind went on one awesome adventure that took me down memory lane. I guess you could say I had a nostalgia trip. So we loaded up the iPad. We've got one of those huge interactive boards. So we loaded that up, put YouTube on, and I found loads of the adverts for the games I used to play or the toys I used to have. So I showed them the original Game Boy, Scanners, Action Man, you name it. I was showing them everything I used to play with. One child turned around and said, "Ben, that's boring." Now, give me a minute. After I composed myself, I then said, but these were the things that meant so much to me as a child. Just like how, for this particular child, Frozen with Elsa and Anna, how much they mean to her. I was like, this is what this means to me. And then I had an idea. It was really aimed at, are you too old to nostalgia? So basically, are you too old to go back to what you used to do? Now, we are in slightly different times now. Like, the whole way the world works is completely different to how it was working when I was little. Me and my wife today were actually talking about an episode of Friends where she brought it up, and she said it was an episode about how Joey, to get this job in this, I think it's a TV series, he has to sleep with the producer. Now, I think this was probably like the late 90s, early 2000s episode. But we said even then, you just kind of think it was Friends was quite a, kind of like a light-hearted show. It was a funny show, really. But you wouldn't be able to get away with that now. Which brought me to the whole kind of thing like, are you too old to nostalgia? So what I'm going to do today, I've got a couple of objects, or toys rather, from when I was younger. I'm a 90s baby, so, we had some awesome toys. And I just thought maybe it's a case of, because we forget, life today, like the whole planet is pretty much work, work, work. You know what I mean? There's no us time anymore. And I think, especially gamers, I love the gaming channels on YouTube. I think they are they can be a bit mean, but for the most part, they haven't forgot what they loved, and they still do it because they don't see it as a toy. It's a way of life, So what I thought I would do is show you some of the things I used to play with, and just kind of have a trip down memory lane, really. So really, when I was going through college in the mid-noughties, hipster was thrown around a lot. Now, you've got your goths, you've got your, I don't know, your skaters, that sort of thing. There was always groups. There shouldn't be, but there always are. And when hipsters came out, I was like, what the hell is a hipster? And I think it was one of them ones like, you've got the Switch, the Switch has been out for a couple of years now, but people still go back to the original Game Boy or the DS. And people are like, oh, they're too hip to be in with the latest thing. And I was like, but I'm kind of like that. I don't want to have what everyone else has got. Does that make me a hipster? I don't know. Please say no. Anyway, The first thing I showed this group of children was the original Game Boy. Now, I know the lights are bright, but you know. So I'm holding it in my hand for the audio version of this one. And it's friggin' huge. I can't believe I used to play this thing as a kid. Let me see if I can get the sound in the mic. Listen to this for a button. I mean, to me, this is the best thing I've ever seen, you know, technology-wise. This device got me into gaming, and I remember getting this as a child. Oh, I've got gaming it too. Oh, it's Jungle Book. I got the Jungle Book in there, and it's, you know, it's probably one of the best consoles I've ever had, and it still works. I wonder if I know there's no batteries in it. Oh, the battery compartment's not bad. Bit grimy, but the pins are still intact, sorry. But it was one of those ones. I was showing them what it was, and I brought it in. I actually brought this into the group, and they did not know what to do with it. They were pressing the buttons, obviously. They were trying to tap the screen. They just had no clue. And I was like, this is what I used to play. I didn't have my mum's and daddy's phone. They didn't have any games on there unless I wanted to make my own ringtone. But it was a case of just kind of showing them that, you know, times change. It's evolution, isn't it? And this will forever take me down that memory lane. I've got the Switch, I've got the DS, I've got them all. And I'll always go back to that one. I mean, just a simple case of that was a game. This cartridge, you know. Blow through the cartridge. I mean, listen to this. Oh. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just actually holding the device you used to use or whatever brings you back down to that memory lane, but it sounds. You know, just a simple case of, literally, I've took the game out. Listen. You know, you could be blindfolded and know exactly what that sound was. And it's one of those ones where it's, until you've experienced that, like, these children aren't going to really experience this until they're way older. And I think it's brilliant. Another thing, this they kind of just dismissed. They did not like the Game Boy. But something that they did enjoy, now this is, it's not a knockoff, but it's basically like a miniature version of what I'm about to show you. But Beyblades. Now Beyblade dominated the noughties. Can't even get this one. Ow, open. But if you, wow, this one's really tough. So this Beyblade I've got, it's oh, I put it the wrong way. I'm breaking my toys. But Beyblades, they came in the mid-90s, and it was essentially just a spinning top. So like I said, this is a small one, literally a keyring one. I mean, this is the launcher with the ripcord. So it's literally just like a very, very fancy spinning top. So make sure it's the right way up. I mean, the light on the camera is pretty bright. But it was a case of showing them this and what it did. They were like, wow, it was amazing, because there's still a lot of toys that do things like what Beyblades do. You know, a very physical, very manual operated toy. And it doesn't look outdated. The Game Boy looks outdated, but this is kind of timeless. It's just an evolution, again, of what a spinning top is. But they loved it. So I was showing them the cartoon. They loved it. They loved the song. It was amazing. But again, it took me down this trip of, you know, I'm 30 years old, and it took me back to when I was 10. And you just think, wow, they were most childhoods, you know, I'm not going to say all, because, you know, things happen, you know. We won't get into that because, you know, some lives do get affected. But for me, this whole thing was like, I don't know, I remember sitting outside my front door, and I'd have like a shoebox full of the weight discs, the attack rings, the bit chips, the ripcords. I used to sell them. I used to build Beyblades and sell them on. And it was amazing. And I think this is it. What I found, and it's only because of technology, you know, with Wi-Fi and all that, you know, wireless gaming. Children are they can game with their friends, but not next to each other. So, something like, I know you could do internet gaming via like the PS2 and the Xbox, the original. But my generation and the generations before remember multiplayer, split screen, whether it was like that or like that, one on top of the other or side by side. You get no field of view on field of view. You get what I mean? You only had a bit of screen to look at, and it was crazy. And no one you was physically with your mates. You know what I mean? You brought your own controller. Never use your mate's controller. If you did that, you was out. You was gone. But again, it took me down that trip of just thinking about things. So from the Beyblade, it took me back to when I was sitting outside playing with my mates. And then for some reason, I don't know if everyone had them, but I think they were called Pokemon sliders. They're essentially just, I don't know, like a plastic mold of the Pokemon with a bearing inside, so you could slide them and you used to have like knockdown targets and everything. And it just kind of took me back to my friends, really. And I think nowadays you don't really have that. You know what I mean? Like I said, you can game with your mates that are in America, in China or something, and it's amazing. But I don't know. I mean, I used to game all the time with my cousins, my friends, and it's great. But it just kind of, I don't really want to sit there with a headset on and a microphone sticking out my face trying to game, and, it takes the fun away from me. But the children really love that one. The one that surprised me was my scanners. Now, I think these have come out in different eras. I want to say eras, in different decades. I think one came out in the 80s or the early 90s, and then I think the one I got came out in potentially 2000s, or the start of the noughties. And scanners, if you don't know, it's a tiny little device with a barcode reader. You scan barcodes, collect monsters, potions. What else can you collect? Weapons. And the aim is to battle and be the biggest clan. Now, mine is in an LG phone box because, if I remember correctly, the original packaging was like just that really horrible, like crappy plastic that you have to butcher with one of the carving knives out your kitchen. It always horrible. But if I just take this out, I had the green one, the Barcode Tribe, I want to say. Oh, I'm knocking my microphone all over the show here. But this is the one I had. It's still in pretty good nick, to be fair. So yeah, I mean, it had a scanner on the top, the barcode reader, and you just scan it. The noises on this were bloody loud. Where's the speaker on it? There's the speaker on it. I remember first loading this up, and the noise, like the actual sounds of it, Jesus, they were loud. But it was brilliant, and not that you can see it on the podcast, obviously, because that's for your ears. But you could connect it. So again, you physically were with your friends, where now, you get your phones out, you can play anything you want. You could probably get scanners on your phone. I'm going to Google that right now. But it was a really cool game. The idea of it was incredible. And the children really like the idea of it. They like things that look different. Like, if you watch Paw Patrol, I think I had a rant about that on the first ever podcast. But on Paw Patrol, he has the pup pad. Ryder does, who's the main character. Talks to dogs. They do all his dirty work. And the town he lives in don't have emergency services. Anyway, he has this pup pad, and it's, he can communicate with all of them. It's very, very weird. But they like stuff like that because it's interactive. Oh, you can get something. You can get, there's quite a few actually. You can get Retro Mon Virtual Pet Monsters, Barcode Ghosts, Barcode Warriors. We'll go with that one. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this. This one's called Retro Mon Virtual Pet Monsters. It's had over 100,000 downloads. It's 4.3 reviews. Don't look too bad. So the actual the setup, so it looks like a what do you call it? It actually looks like an old like Tamagotchi sort of thing. Oh, I should have shown them the Tamagotchis. They would have gone mental for them. Anyway, I'm going off point. But just showing them things like the scanner. I mean, I didn't bring this in, but I will do. I mean, I've still got, this is the other thing I like. You got this, and there was two. You had the normal scanners and Scanners Commando. Or Commando, I can't remember. But if I just attack this, you used to get, with the series I've got here, which was made in, I can actually have a look here. 2000, so this is 20 years old. It's aged better than me. But used to get I had Tribe 2 Patak. Used to get the cards I think there's 42 there. The instruction manual, which I really, really have to be careful with because it's so bloody fragile. But if you open it up on the one part, there was, there they are, you get your Tribe's barcodes. And the problem was, some barcode, just scan it and you'd get a battle. That was annoying when you're trying to not battle. When you've got, you've got like a ton of animals, you've got a ton of monsters and you're trying not to let any of them die, and then all of a sudden you're in a battle that wipes out half of them. That was not fun. But the other thing you get was the magazine, and you could collect them. So that was the magazine scanners. I don't know if they actually made a cartoon of this, but it would have been awesome to do. Does anyone remember VR Troopers? That's kind of what this reminds me of. It's like a virtual battle. But yeah, it was, this whole kind of nostalgia trip was all down to the fact that children just wanted to know what I used to get as a kid. And honestly, it took me way back. So I was thinking of, obviously, the Game Boys. Action Man was another one. They really loved him. They wanted me to bring one in, but I don't. I've got one, but it's based off, I think it's the reissue one of the 60s original Action Man, not the 90s Action Man, which was rugged and tough and always wore blue pants. But it was a case of they were just so amazed, even though it wasn't to their interest. Like, I brought in a cassette tape player. Can't say Walkman because mine was from Boots. Anyway, they were baffled that could play music, that cassette tape could play music. The other thing that baffled them was, what was it? It was another game. Oh, what was it? Oh, I was showing them games I used to play because there's another child that's always playing his brother's PlayStation. So I was like, check this out. I showed him the Sega Mega Drive. Like, you have to use the big cartridges. And he was just like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? And I think you take for granted the things you used to use. Like, I'm 30 years old. Some people I work with are 18, 19, and they don't know what a VHS tape is. They don't know what a cassette tape is. And it just kind of puts it in perspective. Like, I'm older than the MP3 player. Ugh. But I remember them, and I remember when, like, you could have a 128 megabyte MP3 player, and you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? I can have an entire album on here. Where now you can load up Spotify on your phone, and, you know, you've got all the music in the world. You know, YouTube Music, or whatever the hell it is. That replaced Google Play. That was annoying. But going back to the whole nostalgia trip, are you too old to nostalgia? I was talking to my dad today, and he said the same thing. No, you're not too old to nostalgia, because it takes you back. You know, I'm not saying if you're like, I'm saying that I don't care. Like, skateboarding, I love skateboarding. I weren't that good at it, but I'll still go to it. You know, I can't do crap all at the minute. But it was like, I think there's areas where I think, oh, maybe it's a bit, ugh. But a nostalgia trip for me would be like, I remember when I went to see the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers live, blew my mind, and, you know, I was showing my little boy, he's only 2, he's really into, like, Thomas the Tank and everything, so he's watching the stuff I used to watch, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I went on, I think it was Netflix, and they've got the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on, the original show I used to watch, the American one, not the Japanese one. That's awesome. And let me just have a drink. Hang on, my cup's stuck to the coaster. Ooh, I made a good cup of tea today. But I was showing, I was just playing it for me, really. And I was watching it, I was like, my God, the acting's awful. But straight away, I was addicted to it. I remember the episode I was watching. And when they brought out the movie a couple of years ago, it was nice to see an updated version of it, but at the same time, I'm like, give me the original movie any day. And that's what I was thinking about, like, it seems to be when you hit a certain age, you're classed as just a relic. So, like, people were really, you know, some people get really, like, stressed out and suddenly get anxiety attacks about turning 30. I'm like, who the hell cares? You know what I mean? I think that it's like, I used to go to a lot of gigs. I used to play in a lot of gigs. Thanks, 2020. And I find it depends on what crowd you're with. So if you go to clubs or you go to raves and stuff, it does seem to be aged. if that makes sense. So if you go in as like, excuse me, like 20 up to the age of 25, that's all right. 26 onwards, man, you old, you granddad. But if you go to a gig like a rock show, I say show, like if you ever seen Iron Maiden, you'll get what I'm on about. But if you go to one of them, you see children, you see old people, everything, and it's acceptable because it's a massive community. And that's what I like about certain nostalgia trips, like the gaming community. I mean, yes, you've got things from like, Game Boys to PlayStation to PC Master Race. I'm joking. But it's one of them ones when you think, if something gives you that nostalgia trip, the memory lane kind of walk, don't think that you're being stupid or silly. Go for it. If you want to go out and, buy a Dreamcast and play it because that's what you used to play, do it, man. I think what people forget is that we're human. It doesn't matter what you used to play. If you used to play with Barbie, go and get a freaking Barbie doll. But never forget who you are. And that's what really I want to say that's what kind of happened to me when I was doing this lesson about what I used to get. It made me realise, like, enjoy the smaller things, you know what I mean? I will happily go and find 4 odd AA batteries, adjust the contrast wheel, sit underneath like the worst lighting at the most ridiculous angle so my neck breaks to play this rather than going out and play my 3DS or my Switch, or I don't even play like the PlayStation anymore. And I think it's just one of them ones. It's always nice to have that memory lane trip. And it was really fun, I got to admit. Especially when I was digging out all these old toys like the Beyblades. The first thing I did was like launch this, and it took me back to being 10 years old when I made my first spring-assisted launch. And if you never made one of them, don't, because they're dangerous. Especially if you only use blue tack. That's all I can say. But it is one of those ones. It's, excuse me, I find it's literally a case of just enjoy life. If anything this year has taught us, it's stick with your family, man. Enjoy the little times, the small things. You know what I mean? I won't get into a political rant about what the government's doing, blah, 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 blah. But all I'm saying is if you get that opportunity to spend time with family, friends, spend it. If you get a chance to just relive a bit of your youth, whether it's playing a game or going to see a show, how many times are old pop groups like S Club 7, Spice Girls, 5, Backstreet Boys, I just can't think of any more. New Kids on the Block, for instance. How many times are they going to come back, and how many more people are going to go and see them? Because you'll find the people that are going to see them are the people that were listening to them when they were younger. The world is forever changing. The world is forever being mean. So I think, enjoy. So, are we too old to nostalgia? Hell no. Should we nostalgia? Yes. Don't rip people off though. Computer Exchange, I'm looking at you. But it was really just thinking about, with the way this year's gone, just really thinking about what makes you happy. You know what I mean? Providing it doesn't hurt anyone. Hopefully not illegal, unless it's some of those imported games. But just enjoy. And I think, seeing as how it's the 24th of December 2020, I would just like to say Merry Christmas to everyone. If I don't do another one of these before the end of this year, I'll see you in the new year. And enjoy, dudes. I've said that quite a lot coming towards the end of this, but it's all I can really say. We don't know what 2021's going to be. We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen. But what we do know is we can still enjoy the smaller things. So I'm going to raise my Game Boy as I don't have a lighter. I'm going to wave it, and I'm going to say, be awesome. And on that note, I'm going to end. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.